Communities living in Olokurto and Oloropil wards in Narok North near Masai Mau Forest are said to benefit from 160 modern trees meant to rehabilitate tree cover in the area, according to Amos Biward, the Environment Officer for Japan Community Road Empowerment. A 2-year exercise is meant to cultivate a culture of rehabilitating the Mau and their farms, which is fast fading away. The grant program, courtesy of Toyota, targets dispensaries and churches adjacent to the forest, and further books for trees initiative for primary schools where simple water harvesting and storage methods are taught.
For the past 4 years, we've been engaging the community in tree planting exercises and conservation. We've been encouraging establishment of tree nurseries. In the Mau area, we've been capacity building the CFS, the Community Forest Associations. In Narok, we work with 4 CFS who are located in the Mau. From tree planting, we also encourage them to adopt alternative sources of livelihood as an alternative to charcoal burning. And this include dairy goat keeping, beekeeping.
Getting more than 160 trees for planting in the 2 wards, but we'll encourage the community people to produce more as much as they can produce, so that they increase the tree cover in their farms and also in the forest.
Competitive pricing may indeed become the new normal in the Kenyan web space, which has gained a new entrant. Web hosting company Garanta Global has made its entry into the Kenyan market in a strategic move to have a slice of the lucrative Kenyan technological market, thereby indicating the vibrance within the digital space. Founded in 2016, the company is looking to set up shop using the edge in order to successfully capture the ever-growing small and medium-sized sector, which the company says is underserved and overlooked. Web hosting plans being offered by Garanta Global range from 55 shillings per month, where virtual private server or VPS hosting plans begin at 935 shillings and domains registrations from 800 shillings per year. The company is currently on an expansion plan that has seen the organization expand its services to the USA, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, and now Kenya. The growing population in Nairobi has put pressure on farmers to produce more food to feed the swelling number of people in the city. And in the last few years, unscrupulous traders have been selling vegetables grown along sewer lines, risking lives those who consume it. But now, one company has come to the rescue of Nairobians with a grocery supermarket stocking food grown hygienically in their own greenhouses. In this week's episode of Next Frontier, Philip Keitani explains.
Demand for food production and the need to beat the changing weather patterns has seen both professional farmers and novices alike embrace greenhouse farming, either for a quick buck or for a good quality of crop that can be achieved in a greenhouse. But now agribusiness firm Goldscape Group is taking it to an all-new level.
If you have a farm, we'll come, start from an assessment, which usually charge a cost of 5,000 to help us determine whether your land is suitable for the greenhouse farming.
Goldscape is the first firm in Kenya to introduce the concept of lease a greenhouse, where potential investors, including foreigners, lease a greenhouse from them and set it up in the company's land, where the firm manages everything and gives dividends every 6 months for the period of 3 years.
Then after that, we give you a quotation. We supply you with the seedlings, we plant for you, we'll be managing them for you until maturity. Then after maturity of the produce, we will provide the market for you.
With over 500 greenhouses under its name across the country, Goldenscape Limited is taking greenhouse farming to the next level, not just by selling and setting up greenhouses for its clients, but providing markets to its clients too.
Our vegetables are green. You see? So once you go to open market, you don't know where these cabbages are coming from. You're not sure. Yes, they might have come from a place like Nyandarua, but how sure are you?
Now the farm has invested about 2.9 million shillings in a new grocery store in the city, which is also expected to provide an outlet for its clients' farm produce. Vendura Groceries Limited will now be selling organic foods and vegetables directly to their customers at its new store in Kilimani.
In a grocery, we deal with every product that can be grown in Kenya.
Vindura Groceries will also offer free deliveries through their online platform to people living within Nairobi who buys groceries for more than 1,000 shillings on their online platform.
So I decided to come up with this concept. In fact, this is just the first one because I'm coming up with an industry for variation. Let's say tomato sauce, chili sauce, canning, and all that.
According to Peter, all the produce sold in this grocery is from Goldscape Farms, cultivated and taken care of by a qualified agronomist. Every fruit, vegetable, or cereal sold here has been propagated organically, graded, and preserved to give a long-lasting experience.
I'm planning to open 5 branches in 2018. So the second one will be somewhere in Karen. It will be between 3,000 to 4,000 square foot. The next one will be in Mombasa by possibly June or July there.
This new venture is set to save you the hassle of going to the market every day or every weekend to shop for groceries. They can deliver it to your doorstep within Nairobi with expansion strategies in place to open new shops in other towns in Kenya. It is everybody's wish to eat healthy, but most of the time we don't know where the food we buy from the market is coming from. But with this new concept, you can now tell where your food is coming from and how it was grown. Philip Keitan for The Next Frontier.
This is KTN News.
It is back. It's more inspiring, a must-watch, and already on tape. The American edition.
I kind of was afraid, fear of the unknown.
All the way from Corner Brook City in Canada to Toronto.
Another big challenge was also adapting to the speed at which things are done here.
Chicago to Atlanta.
Don't just come, because I'm going to make money in America. You may find that you are better off where you are. Why are you coming?
Washington, D.C. to Albany. Marietta to Virginia.
A lot of ways and opportunities to get into aviation, abroad especially, but even within Kenya.
On the ground and in the skies. Yes, it is a series about Kenyans abroad. Daring Abroad, the only show that takes you around the world without a visa.
For joining us after a long week of hustles and bustles.
Walikuwa wananiita tete jina ya mtaani.
Opposition. Do you agree with me?
Opposition.
What? Usicheke.
This is Friday Briefing.
KTN News.
Welcome back. This is sports news. Kenya Premier League defending champions Gor Mahia have begun where they left last season as they take charge of the new season after the first week of the league. 8 teams are perched at the summit by virtue of winning the opening matches. The 8 are Gor Mahia, coastal side Bandari, who dismissed Sofapaka, military side Ulinzi Stars, Chemelil Sugar, Madara United, Kakamega Homeboys, Kariobangi Sharks, and newcomers Wazito FC. Morocco were crowned the 2018 African Nations Championship winners after an emphatic 4-0 victory over Nigeria in the final at Stade Mohammed in Casablanca on Sunday night. A brace from Zakaria Hadraf and 2 goals from El Karati and El Kabi secured the comfortable victory for the Atlas Lions. Morocco now joined the DRC, Tunisia and Libya as the 4th different winner of the tournament.
Now what can they do with this? The ball comes out, it's a goal! It's a goal! They scored the goal! Morocco have taken the lead, it was perfectly executed there. And the goal scored by Hadraf. That was beautifully done. A sweeping move down the left-hand side. I don't believe that's so close! Another volley and a great shot coming in, it's in the back of the nets! They got the goal! El Kati makes it 2-0 for Morocco. How about that? And there they are celebrating. The Atlas Lions have really, really worked hard to get themselves this far. And they are on fire, these guys. Attack once again, it's a through ball, and they've beaten the offside trap. An opportunity, a decent pass into the middle. Oh, it's surely going to be there. Oh, it's 3-0. Hadraf scores his second. Well, it's just one-way traffic, Cloud9. The pass comes in, and a shot from long range. Oh, it's an ugly one. It's in the back of the net. It's 4-0. It's 4-0. El Kabi gets his 9th goal of this total African Nations Championship. They couldn't clear the danger, Nigeria. Morocco are the winners of the Total African Nations Championship 2018. Congratulations.
And in Monday night's English Premier League action, Chelsea will be up against Watford at Vicarage Road on Monday night as the Blues seek to close in on second place Manchester United. Alvaro Morata is expected to sit out the match due to injury, and new signing Olivier Giroud will be making his debut after moving from Arsenal last week.
Player that the manager likes, type of player that for the way the manager asks us to play will be very important because he can hold up the ball very, very well. He has good combinations, especially Arsenal. We all know the way they like to play, so he's used to this kind of football in the final third, and he's a goal scorer. He likes to be in the box, good finisher, good in the air, good with his feet, so I'm sure he can help us a lot.
Great game for us, so we have to win. We play at home, and we have to fight because Chelsea is a great team, is a top team in Europe. So the game will be difficult, but we have to win. We play for win.
The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl for the first time, beating the New England Patriots 41-33 in an extraordinary encounter in Minneapolis. The Eagles, led by quarterback Nick Foles, produced a brilliant offensive display to deny the Patriots a record-equaling 6th Super Bowl crown.
Break, and they've been great in the red zone. 2nd down and 4, a little flip out here to Corey Clement, and Clement gets inside the 10 and sets up a 1st down and goal. Last year he's run out by Jenkins, trips to the right on 1st down and 5. Lewis is the running back. Off play action, good protection, wide open. Chris Hogan, who gets inside the 30 and takes the ball down to the Philadelphia 27-yard line. Amendola with a great block. 6.5 minutes to go in the quarter. Philadelphia on top 3-0. Brady fires over the middle, caught at the 14-yard line. Rob Gronkowski led the team in catches this season. White caught 56 passes this season. And Brady will check it down to him, and the former Bear, 34 yards and a touchdown.
And Nick Foles told us, he said, early in this game, I want to be able to take it on the board with that.
So after a week-long television blackout across the Republic, 2 of the 4 TV stations that were shut down last week on Tuesday are finally back on air. That is KTN News and NTV, Citizen TV, and Inoro TV still off air. We did ask you for your comments about this issue, how you think the whole matter was handled. Very quickly, Halima Ali on Twitter says, it's very sad that media houses can be shut down for 6 whole days, and Article 33 and 34 states the freedom they are entitled to. I wonder our country is heading. I wonder where our country is heading towards. And one here from Amakanju says, let the people in power know that nothing is permanent with the media shutdown. KE, now we know which type of government we are dealing with. Olita Brand says the decision by the government to switch off the TV was perpetually against human rights of being informed, thanks to our activist Okia Tata. Thank you for your views. A lot of tweets. I cannot possibly read all of them. And of course, this conversation continues here on KTN News, Kenya's only 24-hour news channel. After this, 10 p.m., top of the hour on KTN News, Yusuf Ibrahim will be here with you on Bottomline Afrika. You do not want to miss that conversation. Be sure to join Yusuf in the next few minutes. That's why we leave it on KTN Prime this Monday night. Thank you for joining us. For all of us here on the program, thank you for watching. And good night from Nairobi.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
Otieno Okello is a former banker now turned fish breeder from Maseno in Kisumu County. Okello is the founder of Pioneer Fish Farm, an entity that is setting the pace in breeding and selling of high-quality fingerlings for both tilapia and catfish.
Farming was initially a hobby. I started off as a hobbyist fish farmer and dairy farmer before I ventured into serious fish farming, which I've now been doing for about 6 years.
The Pioneer Fish Farm was set up in 2011, and its services span the aquaculture value chain from the breeding and sale of high-quality fingerlings and production of fresh, affordable fish, as well as providing technical advice for small and medium-scale fish farmers across the country.
It's not for the faint-hearted. It's a difficult proposition. You have to have a passion for it, for you to be able to make inroads, and you have to have a lot of patience. So it's not been a walk in the park.
Okello tells me at first he was just interested in breeding catfish fingerlings that he intended to sell them to Nile perch fishermen to be used as bait, but later realized that there was still a huge demand for tilapia in the region, as the numbers of tilapia being harvested in Lake Victoria had drastically dropped.
What you see here today is just under 4 years old, where with support from Gain Marketplace, we've managed to expand our hatchery into a slightly bigger production unit and been able to increase our production capacity to service a much larger client base.
The farm is now well known for breeding and production of tilapia and catfish fingerlings, as well as production of all fish that is of high quality and affordable, both from its Maseno farm and through the net cage fish farming capacity on Lake Victoria.
I'm a breeder, which means we have a hatchery. What we have here today is our hatchery, and we also grow fish to full market size in the lake, which means that we own some cages on Lake Victoria from which we produce fish to full size.
The farm also specializes in the sale of fish feed and fish farming inputs and provision of extension services to outgrower farmers, as well as the sale of high-quality broodstock lines to other hatcheries. In 2016, the farm sold 800,000 fingerlings and 19.5 metric tons of tilapia from its Maseno farm. This is expected to increase significantly by the end of 2017 as fish are harvested on Lake Victoria.
I mean, in our facility, we can produce easily 200,000 fingerlings in a month if the demand was there. But you also don't want to be left with a lot of stock that you cannot be able to sell. So ideally, that balance can be a bit tricky. It's a bit intensive in terms of capital. You require good skills, which means you require qualified staff to be able to run a hatchery.
Now, with the support from the Global Alliance for Nutrition GAIN, Pioneer Fish Farm has been able to increase the capacity for both fingerlings to be supplied to small-scale farmers within the region and fresh fish.
We have since ventured into production of whole fish, specializing in a product that we have been pushing locally, affordable small fish, because you realize that the market for fish is made up of the haves and the have-nots. The have-nots, basically at the bottom of the pyramid, you'll find that they're not eating as much fish because of the cost of fish. So what we're trying to do is to also get into that cross-section, to cut across the market, all the market segments of tilapia, so that the small man in the village and in the township can be able to afford tilapia just as much as the guys, the middle class in the towns.
The farm is now constructing a farm shop that supplies fish along the busy Kisumu-Busia Road, as well as introduction of floating cage fish farming in the Ere Highland in Lake Victoria.
It is easy to follow.
It's about you.
With you.
We take you on location.
We research.
We break it down.
From agriculture
to environment,
health,
transport,
international issues,
and much more.
The Chamwada Report.
Back on air this February.
Hivyo basi simama hapo hapo tu ulipo na usisonge, usijaribu kwenda popote. Kilicho mkononi weka chini mara moja. Kama wanavyosema, siku za mwizi ni 40. Nilichokupangia na kuambia hutasahau maishani. Uko tayari? Of course. Twende kazi.
Kucheza na sauti amenifanya na misi tu.
mwambie siogope, Ali ni kipenzi cha watu. Tafanya party nyumbani, hiyo yote kwa ajili yake. Tena sije peke yake, siogope.
Ukisikiliza Radio Maisha, kila mtu atakuunga.
Hiyo yote kwa ajili yake.
Usiku na mchana kwa vipindi bomba, mziki wa kisasa wa Kiafrika na habari za kuaminika. Hii ndio radio bora nchini, Radio Maisha. Tuko mbele pamoja.
This is KTN News.
Director, Article 19. We're going to discuss, of course, the state of the nation, the political situation in this country, and definitely the elephant in the room, which has everything to do with what has been happening in the last 7 days, and that is the media shutdown, which affected about 4 television stations in the country, which commands about 2/3 of the viewership in this country. Once again, this is Bottomline Africa. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim, and tonight on our Twitter poll, we are asking you, do you believe the government of Kenya is violating the constitution by cracking down on media and the opposition? Do you believe the government of Kenya is violating the constitution by cracking down on media and the opposition? Our Twitter handle is there on your screen. That is at KTN News. You can as well tweet me at Yusuf Ibra. The hashtag is Bottomline Africa. Now, before we get straight into our conversation tonight, let us listen to a cross-section of views from East Africans about the state of the Kenyan nation.
Make these things to look major in the eyes of people. They will, and it will have impact on the country. The economy will go backwards, will not move forward. No, if they are arresting these people, do you think if they arrest Raila, we are going to have peace in this country? No. No. Not at all. Let the government ignore those things and let us move forward if possible.
The government had its own reason for instructing the media houses not to air the swearing in of Raila Odinga. They were given the reason for security, for the national security, but the media houses ignored the orders. I support. I fully support.
Si kwamba ni Kenya tu, hata hapa Tanzania magazeti kibaya yameweza kufungiwa, lakini anafungiwa kwa makosa gani? Ni pale anapofikia kuyagusa maslahi ya wanasiasa ambao kwa kipindi hicho wameshika hatamu. Kwa hiyo kwanza nipongeze mahakama ya Kenya ambayo imeliona hilo kwamba imefikia mahala kwamba chombo kimeweza kufungiwa ndani ya wiki kadhaa na kuweza kufunguliwa. Hapa Tanzania naomba waliige hili kwamba wananchi wanapokea habari kupitia vyombo vya habari. Sasa ifikia muda kwamba pale wanahabari wanapotoa habari kwa wananchi ndio kiboko cha kuachapia, na shauri kwamba hata Tanzania waige mahakama ya Kenya ilichokifanya kwamba chombo cha habari kimefungiwa ndani ya muda mchache na maamuzi akatoa kuweza kufungulia vyombo vya habari kuweza kufanya kazi yake.
Huwezi kufungia vyombo vitatu vya taarifa habari kwa sababu ya kuapisha kwa Raila Odinga. Inakuwa ni shida kidogo.
Kikweli taarifa nilipokea vibaya kwa sababu hauwezi kumwekea mipaka, hauwezi kuwekea mipaka vyombo vya habari, na ni kama unaviendesha vifanye kitu unavyotaka, na muhimili wa habari unajitegemea wenyewe kama wenyewe. Kwa hiyo kitu kilichofanyika kilikuwa sio sahihi.
Remember, this is a Pan-African show, and those are views from East Africans with regards to the political development, the current situation in this country. Remember, Kenya has for a long time considered itself, or it is, a superpower of the East African region, although Rwanda is coming in very fast. So I'm sure our panelists are watching this. They've watched the reaction there from the East Africans. And the main question is, what has the development in the last 7 days mean for Kenya and by extension, the East African region? I'm going to pose that question to our panelists shortly. But one of the major puzzles tonight remains the whereabouts of the self-styled NRM General Miguna, who was arrested on Friday. Now, opposition leader Raila Odinga weighed in this afternoon on the matter. Let's now listen in to what he had to say.
Mr. Miguna, those reasons will be brought to court. We are in a worse situation than we were before implementation of the new constitution. This is very absurd.
Let's now go straight to our discussion tonight. And in studio, once again, we have Irungu Houghton, Executive Director, Amnesty International, Martin Law, who is a lawyer and doubles up as a political analyst. We also have David Omoyo, CEO, Media Council of Kenya. Henry Maina is the Regional Director, Article 19. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the show. So, Irungu Houghton, let me begin with you, and let's just talk generally about the political situation in this country before even dwelling more on the media shutdown. Of course, that is a conversation most people have been having since, the televisions were brought back on air. It seems like this is a country that is sharply divided, what political analysts would like to refer to as a high political tempo. I mean, what needs to be done moving forward? And bearing in mind, the development last week where NASA leader Raila Odinga saw himself, as, the people's president. What needs to be done moving forward to make sure that this country becomes one?
I think for most international observers, the first thing that they would probably have is whiplash. We go from 1 week where we're announcing a cabinet to the next week where we have announced a parallel president. And then, of course, now we've got the major crackdowns of the NASA leadership, but also the blackout of three of the biggest news stations in the country. So I think for most people, this is not a good sign. It does not depict a country that is moving forward. It does not depict a country that is secure and stable in the way that it handles its democracy. And given our history and given the position that we have within the region, I think we have to look more carefully at how we are managing our affairs, to put it mildly.
And allow me to bring David Omoyo into this conversation as the CEO, Media Council of Kenya. Of course, he is the regulator of the media in this country. And it seems, David, that those who are blaming the media, I'm sure the media has had a very rough time for the last 7 days, that those who are blaming the media for the current situation in this country, has the media in Kenya crossed what many people refer to as the red line?
Before I speak about whether the media has crossed the red line or not, because the jury is still out there, is the mere fact that the media is itself divided on whether there should have been a shutdown or not. We have seen very sharp divisions among the editors and sharp decisions among the media owners, half of them praising the shutdown and another half not agreeing with it. The same at the Editors Guild. You saw even parallel statements, one statement by one leader and another. So while it would be very subjective to just pronounce judgment on the media or whoever, the division we are seeing in the media fraternity is the same division we are seeing across the whole nation. So I would say, yes, on a point, the media has failed, just as many other people have failed, to unite the country. But about crossing the red line or not, I will insist that the jury is still out there.
Yeah, I've understood your point saying, that there's some journalists or media practitioners who are divided on all this matter. Are you saying that those who are in support of the government for the shutdown?
Yes, there are. I think you saw even from last week, a day before the media was shut, we saw the major divisions in the Editors Guild. The chairman issued a statement, the vice chairman issued another one condemning
I believe the vice chairman comes from the national broadcaster, so that is natural for him to support the government. Are there those who come from the privately owned media houses, and they are in support of the closure?
The Media Owners Association chairman is not a state employee, and he came out and saying that the closure was a very good thing for the country.
Okay, we're going to generally talk about the media shutdown in detail shortly, but allow me to engage Henry Maina, who is the Regional Director, Article 19. Henry, you being, of course, a Kenyan, and you've observed the political situation in the country, where are we now?
I think with all modesty, the country has regressed, and we need to be quite clear that this being the second election that was conducted recently after we promulgated the Constitution, it was expected that Kenya would be consolidating its democratic principles and values. But I shudder to say that we've gone back nearly close to where we were in 1992. And so I think the discussion today is to say, is Kenya moving further towards being an authoritarian regime, or are we moving closer to being a democracy? I think the former is true, that given what we've seen misuse of state power to arrest. It's not been used fairly and modestly for purposes of ensuring that those who are alleged or claimed to have violated any public interest are summoned to appear before courts of law. we've seen incidents that nearly mirror where a state that has gone rogue against its own citizens. And this is a continuation of what we saw during the elections and the post-election violence. So the ultimate closure of the media, for me, is something that tells us that we are moving closer back to our authoritarian state as opposed to towards a democracy that we are supposed to be. Again, most of us must remember the collective indictment of the judiciary, not only from the ruling party, but also from the opposition. And when you pick all these characteristics, it begins to be clear that on paper, our leaders, politicians largely, and bureaucrats swear they will protect the Constitution. But in practice, they tend to protect it in negation. And this is a big concern, that rule of law seems to be there for the ordinary citizen, but our public officials, politicians, don't have as much regard of the law. They have regard for their whimsical thinking, what would be ideally dictatorial edicts that are not sometimes even supported by the law. They purport to be enforcing.
Yes, Henry,
and that's a big fear.
Yes, Henry, and your comment there informs my next question, and I'm going to pose this to Martin Olo, is a lawyer joining us from our City Center studio. Now, Martin, it seems the civil society is, of course, accusing the government of not following the Constitution. The government, of course, is also accusing the NASA of not following the Constitution. The opposition, that is NASA, is also accusing the government of not following the Constitution. There seems to be some kind of, counter accusations between all these parties. I'm sure Kenyans are confused in this kind of situation.
Certainly, yes. And I think that Omoyo captures it when he says that when you have a division on a question as to whether it is correct or not to shut down a media house, and then you have opposing views coming right from the media fraternity itself, then that's unfortunate. And so what we are seeing is that we seem to be having a clear negation of what you'd think basic norms of rule of law, basic norms of constitutionalism, and basic norms of civility. So what is wrong should be wrong. I mean, if you're going to shut a station without following the due process, there is absolutely no reason why it should be justifiable. So all of us should be able to agree that it's a wrong one. But the moment you find that there are divided opinions, then you begin to question whether, even when you look at the Constitution or look at the law, we seem to be reading from the same position. So our challenge is that the problems are on both sides. Whether you're looking at the opposition or whether you're looking at the government, we don't seem to be having a common understanding of what is good and what is right. And that is, I think, a bad place to be in. So then the encouragement to the rest of us or the rest of the citizens is who then will follow the law and who then will be right with the law. When we have a situation where we don't seem to be having the guardians of the law protecting it and the members of the civil society and the media protecting it. But that said again, I don't think that we should be looking at whether or not the media has contributed to the situation that we have. The media's role is very simple. It's like a messenger. You pass the message as you are given. So how then would you be blamed for passing a message? So if the mirror that the media is portraying shows me that I'm ugly, it cannot be because of the mirror. It must be because the situation is so.
Well said. Now, Irungu Alton, of course, based on what Martin Olo has been talking about, where will that leave the media? We're being accused left, right, and center of having too much politics. But then again, this is what is happening in the country. It needs to be reported, right?
I think the media have no apologies to make in terms of what's happened over the last 1 week. Media shutdowns or blackouts are used in contexts where authorities want to hide the truth. We've seen it in many cases, whether it be around environmental or famine scandals, whether it be around corruption, whether it be around political or social unrest. And that essentially is the purpose of a blackout. And I think this is what has been used. And I think we need to be very careful of making an argument that because people have different views within the media, what has happened is either legitimate or is credible. we know for a fact that the blackout has essentially contravened or has violated some key elements of our constitution. And that constitution is not something that we can speculate about. It is actually there in black and white. That we enshrine the right to information, we enshrine the freedom of the press, and anything that falls short of that, I think, has to be condemned. And I think there has to be some serious soul-searching within the leadership of the national administration why this would be necessary at this point. It is not only illegal, but it is also dangerous in a context where we have a very, very polarized society, where people are much more comfortable listening to their own narrow viewpoints, or are relying on fake news or rumors or gossip. But in a context where you shut down the national media for 85% of the people who watch that media, I think you have to be very careful about what you are actually pushing this country towards.
I think we're going to talk about the media shutdown in detail shortly, but there's a question I want to pose to all of you. And David Omoyo, if you want to comment on this, feel free. But let me begin with Henry. And Henry, do you think the current, shall I call bunch of politicians in this country, do you think they have the ability to unite Kenya as a country and move it beyond what many have referred to as tribal democracy?
I think they do, if they purpose to unite the country. But ideally, I think most of the time, it's not the bigger public interest that is driving most of them. It is the selfish thirst for power. And we see them sometimes being just raw. You would call them the raw animal instincts on how they would want to devour, a lion chasing a gazelle and saying, you are my next meal, regardless of anything else. I think that if our politicians were to be properly sanctioned, we can restore order amongst the politicians. And I think the challenge the country is having is failure of institutions. We know that there is an institution called the Registrar of Political Parties, which has been ideally emasculated. So it's not been able to sanction political parties. We've seen individuals in political parties who incite, and political parties don't come out clearly to say we don't condone this. We've seen when politicians, from whichever the political divide and persuasion, breaking the law with impunity, and we don't see sanctions that are clear to these individuals. We know, for instance, the president talked about, I'll fight corruption. And he kept telling us that there are people even in the office of the president that are corrupt, and I'm asking them to leave. So when you have such an attitude towards public interest issues, then you can't unite the country. You're seeking partisan support that is not issue-based, that is not as sound on values. But if we're going to rally each other around the constitutional principles of equality, non-discrimination, rule of law, equal participation, so that participation is not a token, it's not a favor anybody is going to do citizens when they say we didn't participate, then it's possible to unite the country around those values. But if we're going to try and rally each other around our ethnic cocoons and having politicians as the biggest bidders that carry their ethnic group to the market, to whoever would be the next highest bidder, then we would never be united.
And I'd like to hear Martin's view on the same issue.
Sincerely, what we are dealing with here is larger than our leaders. It starts from where we are. I think we organize our politics from a tribal perspective. We organize our political parties from a tribal perspective. We divide the country in order for us to get into office. So with that kind of approach to leadership, there is no way you can talk about unity. Even if you put all these leaders together, if they happen to agree on anything, they'll be agreeing on how to eat or how to devour the country. They're not likely to be agreeing on how to unite the country, because that's not the objective. The objective is to use our division, use our tribal differences to then rise to leadership. And until we look at that, I'm hearing my friend Henry talk about values. Really, there's one thing to put in Article 10 of the Constitution values, is totally another thing to leave those values. So where we are, we do not the values we live by have nothing to do with the values we put in our constitution. When you talk of human dignity in the constitution, we don't live by dignity. That's why we can incarcerate anybody, we can violate anybody's rights, and that's okay. When you talk about national cohesion, when you talk about participation, again, those are things we put in the constitution, but when we come to acting, it's a very different thing. So if we are looking to our leaders to unite this country, we will look for it for a very long time to come. What we need to do is to accept that as Kenyans, we are divided, we are tribal, and if we are all those things, then it's not going to be the leaders who will unite us. It must be a conscious decision that we take to respect the values in the Constitution, to live by those principles, and then to build up a constitutional democracy. For now, there's a disconnect between what we say in our Constitution and how we practice.
Well said, Martin. It seems from your observation there, we are in a very sorry state of, as far as democracy is concerned. Now, David, this begs the question, if our democracy as a country is tribal, if people go out there, employ each other based on tribal lines, I mean, where will that leave the media? Because everyone tends to accuse the media because they tend to look at them from their own political spectrum.
I think we go back to the politicians you guys have been speaking about. A few weeks ago, after seeing some bunch of politicians fighting in Murang'a and some other guys holding a pilot hostage at the airport, I almost wanted to conclude that some guys were behaving like wild animals, really. But then I realized that the politicians come from amongst us. They are our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, teachers, and all that. So the behavior we see among the politicians couldn't really be described as the behavior of the nation. That is how we behave when nobody is watching. It's just that these politicians are in a national limelight where there is a camera always when they are on air. And so when we come to the media, I think the same division we spoke about that we have seen among the media is simply what we have seen among the citizenry. Earlier on, you ran clips about people from different parts of the nation commenting about the media shutdown. And we saw the division. Half of the people who came on say they are very excited to have you back, and the other half said you should have been shut forever. So really, while we speak about getting the divisions and the media fermenting the decision, we haven't been able as journalists to be entirely professional. We have let our political and ethnic affiliations come and over-influence the editorial decisions we make. And that, if anybody judge the media that way, they will be right.
Of course, we're going to discuss that even much more in detail, David, after this very short break. And to our viewers, of course, this is Bottomline Africa. And when we return, we're going to talk in detail much more about the status of, media freedom in this country. And of course, not forgetting the crackdown on dissent. Some NASA leaders have been arrested, apparently. Some of them, we still don't know their whereabouts. We're going to talk more about that shortly. Stay with us. We'll be right back.